So today on the podcast, we're having Joe Soto join us. He's a wealth manager. He's been a financial advisor in many firms. He studied at New York University as well as University of New Orleans. And you've also, Joe, served in the military. I forgot what branch that was in. If you could remind us on that, that would be good.
Air Force, U.S. Air Force.
U.S. Air Force. Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah. So welcome aboard. How are you doing today?
Good to be here, man. It's good to see you.
Yeah. Likewise. Yeah. It's been a little bit since we talked.
Yeah.
So yeah, usually in these like interviews, I ask people about their kind of life story, and then we talk about a little bit of what they're good at as well. So just to begin, where are you in your life today? Like as far as what are you doing, what are you kind of focusing on, and what's your life like currently?
Where am I in my life today? Um, let's see. Well, I'm still a practicing, wealth manager. Still run a wealth management practice. So I'm helping clients with that. I'm also currently working on a project right now. I want to say when we talked way back when, I told you I was working in this on this thing about kind of helping bring the financial literacy or this comprehensive wealth idea
Hmm.
uh, to a much broader pool of people, because I tend to serve a very exclusive sleeve in the marketplace, but I'm working on a couple of things right now, trying to figure out how to bring that in kind of to a much broader audience, because I don't feel like the information that I have shouldn't really be secret, and it shouldn't be really that hard to get, but yet it is.
Hmm.
So that's where I'm at professionally. On a personal level, man, I got two preteen girls, man, and they're making my hair come out white, man. It's hard, man. It's hard. I got two young girls, twin girls. I tell you what, that's the real job, man. Being a
Oh
husband
yeah.
and being a father. So
Oh
so
yeah.
that's my life, being a husband, being a father, running a wealth management practice, and then trying to take the stuff that I know and also create a legacy with it, meaning that, especially financial literacy, how do I bring that out to other people, because that need it, but maybe they don't have access to it. So next
Hmm.
year, next year that will happen. I'm already at that level now. So, but there were some things I had to line up before I could get to that level.
Nice, nice. That's sounds really good. Sounds really well. Um, so knowing where you are right now, how did you get to this point? And if you could start like way back in like middle school or high school, like who were you back then?
Middle school and high school. Um, wow, what a great question. Uh, well, I was raised by a single parent. So, who was I in middle school and high school, man? I was just a kid trying to find my identity.
Hmm.
I knew that I always was curious, and uh, having the ability to learn was was natural to me. I was curious and I could learn, but it really wasn't very popular to be smart. You know what I mean? Like, if you
Hmm.
were like smart, you were a nerd, and then you got bullied on. So I felt like in middle school and high school, I used to try to downplay my curiosity, because I feel like it sounds a little arrogant to say that my intelligence, because I really don't know how intelligent I was, but I could tell you that it was easy for me to learn. I had to downplay my curiosity so I didn't get bullied. So I was socially aware enough that I didn't want to be like the nerd in the class. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But I did just enough, and on top of that, you know, English was my second language too. On top of that, so I was learning how to speak English throughout all that. So that was fascinating. So yeah, that's where I was at in middle school, in high school, and then I happened to be a very good soccer player.
Okay.
Um, and that kept me out of trouble, man. If it wasn't because of soccer, I don't think I would be here right now. I mean, I grew up in New Orleans. There was a lot of roads that you could take to go down the wrong path,
Mm-hmm.
and because I was good in soccer, I played competitively. I played for the Olympic Development Program, or tried out for it. I traveled the country with a competitive team. Once I got to that competitive level, I realized that I wasn't really that good, but I was good enough to play at that level, and that kept me out of trouble. But that's kind of how I spent my middle school and high school years. To answer your question,
Okay. Where were you born, and how old were you when you moved to U.S.?
yeah, I was born in San Jose, Costa Rica, and I moved to the United. I moved to the U.S. when I was about 8 or 9 years old.
Okay, so that was like first or second grade, something like that. You went in U.S. School system,
I would say fourth to fifth.
fourth and fifth. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, and so in more so in high school and so on, as people kind of develop their personalities and who they are, and kind of figure out their at least their way in life at that point. Who were you like? Like, were you outgoing? Did you have lots of friends? Were you just kind of keeping to yourself? What were you like?
Um, I would probably say that. Yeah, I was pretty outgoing. My life revolved around sports because even in high school, I was the captain of the soccer team. I was the captain of the varsity soccer team as a freshman.
Wow, nice.
Yeah. So freshman, junior, sophomore, senior, I was the captain of my team. So my life evolved around sports. So I was
Hmm.
friends with a lot of people. Um, but for some reason, I didn't I didn't really get. I was my life was just all about sports and academics, and I wish I kind of missed that whole partying groups. Like they had all these little groups in high school. I didn't really get involved too much in that because as I was playing soccer in high school, I was also playing competitive soccer outside of school too. So
Hmm.
I would leave high school and then go play practice on the other team, and so that was a positive thing for me. But I would say I was pretty outgoing, um, and I would say that probably in the area where I grew up, it gave me a very, very distinct view on the world. New Orleans, because it was a very diverse group of people. So I didn't, I was talking to somebody not too long ago that, you know, uh, you hear these things as an adult about separation in groups and this and that. I just didn't really see that growing up, which is weird. But I'm kind of grateful that I didn't. It was just very diverse. We had all sorts of people where I was growing up in high school and in my neighborhood.
Hmm. So at that time, you mentioned you kind of missed out on the partying, and you were saying that that was a good thing, right? Or were you saying that you wished that you had kind of joined those parties at that time?
No, I think it was a good thing, man. It was a good thing. I mean, I have hindsight to look at on it now, you know.
Yeah.
So I mean, I look at all the people that I grew up with. A lot of them were very popular, or they were the folks that were the president of this club and that club. And I mean, they say comparison is the thief of joy, so I don't like to compare myself with anybody. Um, but you know, I feel like I've been blessed in terms of the way my path went. I did do a lot of partying when I went off into the military, so I
Hmm.
made up for it.
Okay.
Um, so it wasn't. It's just that wasn't really my lifestyle in high school.
Okay. So, like your senior, let's say your senior year in high school, who were your friends like, and what kind of uh, people or advice or advisors did you have around you, like telling you or suggesting to you, you should go do this with your life, or you should go in this way or that path?
I didn't have that many, bro. I didn't have that many. Um, my friends were a lot of them were kids that played on the soccer team. Some of those guys made good decisions. Many of them made bad decisions. Um, a big part of the reason why I joined the military is because I didn't really like what my life looked like when I first got out of high school. I actually got a full ride scholarship to play soccer in college, but I had never left New Orleans, and I was afraid to leave my family.
Hmm.
And also, I think my family was afraid to see me go too. So they weren't really very supportive either. You know what I mean?
Okay.
They were like, "You never been out of town. You never been." So I got a full ride scholarship to a university called Denison University to play ball, but I didn't take it. So I started working at a place called Ruth Chris Steakhouse, which was my first like actual job right out of high school. And I don't know, man. I want to say it was God, man. I just looked around and I was like, people that were working there, they were like they've been there for like 40 years.
Hmm.
So like, I mean, they make good money at Ruth Chris Steakhouse, bro. I'm not knocking those guys, and I love the food there. But I was like, man, do I really want to be that guy? You know what I mean? Like 40 years from now, I'd be like, I made it to bartender. Which, by the way, those bartenders make a lot of money over there too.
Hmm.
So respect to anybody in the service industry. But I'm just saying, like for me, that was like an aha moment because I was like, what am I doing here, man? Like this is kind of like the trajectory of my life. And then that's when I decided to join the military at that time.
Hmm. So you went into this restaurant kind of business. Were you in it for like a year or 2 years or something like that?
I would say probably about 2 years.
Okay. So then you were probably around 20 or so when you joined the military.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. Let
And
me let
and
me also, Barry, real quick, because you asked a question and you said something about who was talking to me, and you were saying who was talking to me, who gave me direction. I didn't really have direction like that. Now I was fortunate and blessed. Like for example, um, to play soccer at a competitive level. I don't know if people realize this, but Zlatan Ibrahimovic made a post, and he
mhm,
said that the reason the U.S. will never win a World Cup is because all the kids got to pay like 20 grand a year, and all the good kids will never be able to afford it. If you look at Messi, you look at Pele, you look at all these guys, nobody would have made it. If they were American, they would have never came out because it's really expensive. It was
mhm,
no different when I played. When I played, you had to pay all this money. My mom was like, "We can't afford that." So I had some people that sponsored me and allowed me to pay for me to play at a competitive level. If it wasn't for them, I would have never been able to play. But I wanted to say something on that. So uh, I became a student of personal development at that time, 17, 18 years old. And there was a gentleman that I met by the name of Jim Rohn, who's now passed away. But because I always felt like I didn't have mentors. As a matter of fact, Jerry, I knew I didn't have mentors. I
mhm,
had bad influence. So the people, I knew, I'm like, I got to survive with these guys, but I don't want to be like these guys.
mhm,
So how do I get out of this, right? And in this, I'm not gonna talk about everything I learned over these time, but there was this one thing that he said. He was like, "Look, if you don't have any mentors in your life, I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you a place where you can go and find your mentors that you want, and they'll teach you everything they know." And he got my attention because I was hungry. I was starving for that. And he said, "It's called the public library." And all
yeah.
you gotta do is get a library card, and if you want to learn, what Benjamin Franklin believed in, if you want to learn what like nowadays, Elon Musk or Bill Gates. If you want to learn about them, there's 4, 5, 6, 10 different books on them. By the time
Yeah.
you read all those books, it's like if you would have had that person as a mentor.
Yeah.
And that changed my life because at that point it was like, okay, and I became an avid reader at that point.
And that was like just out of high school, or right like senior year in high school. Sounds like, right?
Yeah, that was right. That was right between senior year and my first year out of high school. Yeah.
Okay. So after the restaurant, like, what was your thought process like when you were deciding to go into Air Force? How did you come about that decision?
So I was so I had all the people that I work with became my close friends,
Hmm.
right? So then you would you would work really hard in the restaurant and you make a lot of money. I didn't have any financial literacy, so I would spend the money as fast as it would come in. Uh, we work hard, we party hard, um, and I just remember that one day, one of the friends that we were close with, he was giving me a ride to a party after we were getting off of work, and I'll never forget that he took where the airbag goes on the steering wheel,
Hmm.
and a bag of cocaine dropped out of there.
Wow.
Yeah, and he was like, "Here, hold this. I just got to put." He had like money in there. You're like a little office in there, man. And I was like, "Whoa!" I said, "What is going on here?" I'm like, who am I hanging out with? What am I doing? I'm with this guy, so I was self-conscious enough to know if this guy gets caught or he gets into an accident or something, I'm going down with him, and I have nothing to do with this.
Yeah.
So that was like an aha moment that I had right there, and I was like, I just, this is just not going to end well. And so here's what's interesting that hold on. So I was in so I had signed up at ROTC in high school, ROTC, which is kind of like a
Hmm.
little training program thing,
Yeah.
and but it was for the Marines. And when I graduated high school, my mother gave me a trip to my home country, Costa Rica, to go visit. I don't know if I told you this with Jerry when we met last time, but when we met in person, but the my mom bought me this trip, which was right after I got out of high school. I was supposed to go to Costa Rica to celebrate my graduation,
Okay.
and which was a huge thing, man, because like my mom, we didn't have it like that, She must have saved a lot of money to make that happen. So, anyways, or must have saved a long time. So, long story short, I went to tell the Marine recruiter that my mom bought me this ticket, and and he snapped on me, man. He was like, "Hey, son," he just started going off on me, right? So anyway, so I was like, "Oh man, this is crazy," because my mom was not military set up like that, you know what I mean? And I was still civilian status.
Hmm.
So I was like, "Man, the heck with these guys," right? But anyways, when that thing happened with that guy, I went back to the recruiter's office, and I already had all my paperwork, and I met with the Air Force guys,
Hmm.
and then that was the decision that was the catalyst for me to want to um, go to the Air
There.
Force.
Okay. So you were in the ROTC for Marines,
Yeah,
and kind of the Air Force recruiter or whatever kind of snatched you out of the
exactly.
Marines.
Yeah,
Okay. But
exactly what happened. Yep.
um but
Sergeant Stevens.
how did you like how did you decide, like, just working is not for me at this time, going to college is not for me right now, but military is? Like, how did you come across that decision?
Yeah, when you're 18, 19 years old, the quicker you can get to the point where you realize that you're dealing with incomplete information. Because at 18 and 19, there's not really much that you can know,
Hmm.
like for those kind of decisions. But the information that I had told me, okay, these people work at this restaurant. The whole objective in life is to become a manager one day. They made money. They party hard. It's a great life. They had toys, you know. But they were also doing some weird things on the side too, which were really scary to me.
Yeah.
And then I realized there was a part of me that was like, dude, I got to grow up. You know what I mean? Like I'm an adult now, and I want to go to school, but I also want to travel and see the world. And there was a part of me too that wanted to be a soldier too. I wanted to be a soldier, and I wanted to serve this country, man, because it's given me so much. So there was
Hmm.
a part of that, and yeah, that's how we got to that conclusion.
Okay. And how long did you stay at the Air Force? How long did you serve?
Approximately 4 years.
Okay.
Yep.
Any interesting stories you'd want to share from there?
Phew. Interesting stories. Um, yeah, I'll give you a funny one that happened to me in the first 30 days. Um, so I'm from New Orleans, right? And I get there, it's like beginning of November. And it's like November 17th, I believe, that I got there. And, come December, it's probably like December or January, man. The winters are brutal. I was stationed in North Dakota,
Okay. Yeah, it's
Minot Air
colder.
Force Base, North Dakota. And and I look outside the barracks, man, and my car's not there. And I call the police, because being from New Orleans, man, cars get stolen all the time. You know what I mean? So I'm like, my car got stolen. I'm like, this is crazy. So I call the police. Back then, they call it security forces. So they come out and they're like, hey, you got your cold weather gear on? I put your gear on. And it's like, and you got a shovel? And I was like so confused by what was going on. So then they were like, come out, you got to come out. Where you from? I said, I'm from New Orleans. She said, okay, we got another Southern boy. So these guys were laughing at me, because I was from the South and I've never really seen that kind of blizzard type of environment. So long story short, I go out there and my car is just pretty much buried completely in snow. And from the bunk where I was at, you just couldn't see it. It just looked white. It was gone, but it was really completely buried in snow. So
Yeah.
now I learned a lot about how winters are like in North Dakota. You got to carry a shovel. You need an ice scraper for the windshield. There's a thing called a block heater where you plug your car into these plugs, which I didn't know what they were for, and they keep your engine warm. And that same car, just to kind of wrap up this story, that same car, a couple years later, when I was it was like a year later. It was summertime, and it was a brand new car. So I bring it to the dealership because it's not blowing any cold air, man. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? And and come to find out that they actually have some cars they sell there without air conditioning.
Yeah.
So that was a bit of a culture shock for me.
Yeah. What year was that?
I want to say 1990, 2000, 1999, 2001 maybe.
Okay.
1999, 2000, 2001. Yep.
Okay. Did you serve like outside the U.S.? Did you go to any kind of bases around the world out there?
Hmm. Yeah, unfortunately, I mean, I did time in North Dakota, and then I did, I say Iraq, but I tell people Iraq because I was stationed in a base called Al Dafra, which was in a border with United Arab Emirates,
Hmm.
and what is it? What's the other place there? Is United Arab Emirates, and then what's the other big one there?
Qatar or something, or
Qatar, yeah, Qatar and United Arab Emirates. So that was right after September 11th. So I
right?
did a little bit of time there, um, and then that was pretty much my tour in the military.
Okay. What was your role in the Air Force? What was your
So
job?
I was what they call an operation readiness, specialist. Man, we did all kind of stuff, man. We did things from like our job when we were going to overseas was like our job was to build the base from the ground up,
Hmm.
where people eat, where they sleep, um, where they play. Um we were also in charge of mortuary affairs. So if there was actually like mass loss, they show you how to tag, bag, and ship. Basically like how to send the bodies back. We were in charge of that. Um, but thank God I didn't really see any of that. I just practiced on it, which was kind of really spooky.
Hmm.
Just to practice on bagging people up and sending them back. That was crazy, man. But yeah, so it was a very broad type of field that could include all sorts of things. Like I said, lodging, dining, recreation, mortuary affairs. What else? I think that was pretty much it.
Okay. So when you got out of Air Force, what did you do next?
Um, okay. So I got an opportunity to start my education when I was in the Air Force.
Hmm.
So I started college. I was going to college while I was in the service, and when I got out, I went right back to New Orleans,
Hmm.
and that was a bit of a culture shock for me, man, because I found all my old friends that were doing the exact same things that I did before I left. It was kind of weird, man. Really, that was a big that was it was weird. It felt good, and it also felt weird because I was like, "There's nothing that changed from 4 years ago." So I went back to New Orleans, and I got enrolled in UNO, at University of New Orleans,
Hmm.
and I was working, and I was going to school.
Okay. What when you said you started some schooling and college while you were at the military, what was your like major or minor?
Yeah, business administration. I had a business administration was my undergrad. Marketing, um, with concentration in marketing, and there was a new program at the time called professional sales, which I
Hmm.
believe the dean of um, I forgot the name of the school here. There's a school here in Georgia. I just found out that she's the dean of the School of Business there. There was a doctor. We talked about mentors. This lady was a mentor to me early in college, Dr. Laylo Borders, and she saw something in me, and then I just felt like she looked out to me, gave me opportunities, showed me what I needed to do, and she was inspirational to me. Like I was like, okay, this lady's sharp. I want to be like her. So so I also got concentration in professional selling.
Okay.
So I did undergrad in business administration. What do they call that, man? A marketing major with the concentration in professional sales. That's what I got. Yeah,
Okay.
at
So
UNO.
you got some pretty good schooling. I mean, those are like great life skills, selling, marketing.
Yeah, no
Um,
question, no question.
so then you graduated from the University of New Orleans.
Yeah,
What was you graduated with what degree?
business administration concentration with the business administration. I forgot with majoring in marketing, and a concentration in professional sales.
But that was a bachelor's degree?
That was a bachelor's degree. Yeah.
Okay. And then after that, you went to New York University?
Yep. And that was for a financial planning certificate.
Oh, okay. Okay. And so, did you actually like physically go to New York, or was that like a remote type of thing?
Remote.
Okay. So after you graduated from New Orleans, University of New Orleans, what did you do then?
What did I do after I graduated from the University of New Orleans? Yeah, so if it's okay, Jerry, we're gonna go back 30 seconds because I got to give you this piece. You just made me think of something.
Yeah.
So I was telling you about that lady, right? Dr. Layla Borders. Now get this, because this is gonna segue to what I did after I graduated. So they had a competition. So professional selling was an arm of marketing,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's under the marketing world, and there was a competition on why professional selling was important, right? And we did a paper and a video. And you submit it, and it was sponsored by like a lot of these Wall Street firms, okay, and insurance companies, and messed around and wrote a paper, okay, and just to give you the thesis of the paper was basically my thesis was that Christopher Columbus was the greatest salesperson ever, right? And I explained the reason why, because he got turned down so many times,
Mm-hmm.
and he kept overcoming the objections until he finally found a yes. But he was selling people something that they really couldn't see, because a lot of times people felt like at that time that the world was flat and people were going to fall off the other edge. So anyway, I did the paper and a video on that. It turned out to be pretty good because I got first place.
Nice.
And it was so awesome because I got money, man. 5,000, 2,500. Dude, I was like in college, man. That was the most money I've ever seen. And they just gave me checks. And I was like, wow, this is really cool, So anyways, that was, then I started getting offers from some of these institutions. And that was really cool. But I just I was like, this is great, but let me kind of move to the next section of my life or whatever to see what I can do. Because I had this idea, Jerry, that because I had a bachelor's degree in an education, that I was going to be making, $500,000 right out of college, maybe not 500, but at least 100,
Yeah.
And I realized real quick, man, that wasn't the case. People wanted me to work for free. 25 grand, 20 grand commission. It was crazy. So what ended up happening was, going fast forward to your next question, this was the time, Jerry, that, what do you call it? Applications started to go online.
Mm-hmm.
The year I graduated was the year that people started to apply online, right? So I was putting hundreds of applications in, bro, and it was like I was getting all these bogus offers. Some of them were legitimate, and I just remember, man, it was like, I don't know, like maybe like 6 months went by. I'm living at home with my mom, at the time, and I just remember my mom telling me, you're a grown man now, and I'm not about to like take care of a grown man. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's what she said, bro. So she said, look, you have, I think she gave it like 4 weeks. She said, you got 4 weeks. And if you don't get a job, I'll help you find one.
Hmm.
And I was like, she don't understand, you know. But I remember her telling me that she said you're not gonna find a job sitting behind that computer. I mean, maybe things are a little bit different now because we're doing like a video conference, you know. So, but she's like, you need to go out there and show the world your face, you know. So,
Right.
long story short, she was really about to kick me out the house, man.
Mm.
Okay, like my mom when she flipped that switch, there's no coming back, you know. Which it's a whole nother story. But so, anyways, she comes home one day and she got like these job applications, man, like Dollar General. I forgot, man. I think it was like a couple of these big like Popeyes chicken, bro. You know,
Hey,
she said, "Look,
gotta get a job.
yeah, yeah." So she said, "Look, you got 2 weeks on your 4 weeks notice I gave you. I already spoke to these managers, and they're ready for you to start on Monday."
Nice.
She said, "So you either work at one of these three, or you go find your own gig." So then what I did is I took my resumes that I had and kind of now I got motivation, bro. Because
Yeah.
I'm like I'm about to get kicked out, and I don't want that kind of pressure. And I started going up and down this street called Veterans Boulevard, and I was dropping resumes in person, and I walked into a Chase Bank and
Hmm.
asked to speak to a manager, and they asked me if I was bilingual at the time. And they said, "Are you bilingual? Because we need somebody who's bilingual here. We're interviewing for a job in the banking. You want to be a banker? You got your degree." Said, "Normally we don't hire people without experience, but we need somebody. Can you
Hmm.
interview on Monday?" I interviewed on Monday, and I ended up spending 10 years at JP Morgan.
Okay. So what was that initial job? What was that for?
I was a banker, man, like opening
Just a
up bank accounts and selling credit cards and direct deposit. I was that guy.
not the teller, but the person at the desk or whatever, or the actual
Correct.
teller,
Correct. No, no, no. It
not the
was,
teller.
it was, it was. Hey, by the way, I do believe the tellers got the hardest job, man. Because look, I don't know how they count that money and come up with the exact number every day. But anyways, so yeah, I don't want to downplay them, but it's like, yeah, my job was a banker, which was like, I guess one step above after you're a teller.
Okay. And then from there, you kind of progress to where you are through um, firms and so on.
Yep.
Um, what advice would you give somebody who's just starting out from high school and is not sure what to do? Go work, go to college, go to military. Like, what would you tell them?
Um, you're either increasing your capacity for faith and getting closer to God, or you're going to increase your tolerance for pain. So what do I mean by that? Well, when you have faith, you pray and you ask God for direction, right? Whether that be going, like, I don't know the answer to somebody go to college or go to the military. You know what I'm saying? I think it's a little bit pretentious for me to tell people I got my opinion. I could tell people you should do this based on my opinion. But in my view today, right? I look back, right, and I look at my life. There's just no way that I would be where I am today if it wasn't because some power greater than myself.
Hmm.
And I'm not lucky because I've met people that are unlucky. Okay, so it's grace. So I would seek a lot more of that and get find and, um, and by the way, I'm an amateur when it comes to the whole faith thing, man. But and I'm starting to read the scripture. It says Jesus says there's two commandments: love God above everything else, and then love your brothers and sisters. Those are the two most important. I don't think you can go wrong with that, man.
Right.
Sheesh. I don't think you can go wrong with that, man. You want to find a job? Love your brothers and sisters. Like, instead of trying to worry about being loved, go love on somebody.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like selfishness and self-centeredness has caused me more problems in my life than anything else in my world. So the quicker I can find a way to get rid of that selfishness, the quicker I can become somebody of value.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because if not, I'm looking for the shortcut. What is the quickest way that I can make $1 million? You may not like where that road ends. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah.
It might look good, but you might not like it when you get to the top of that ladder and realize that he was leaning against the wrong wall.
Yeah.
And then so I say that because I would feel like God would be disappointed at me if I missed that. Now, from personal opinion and things that I've done in my life, I would say that one of the things I learned from my original mentors is work harder on yourself, on your skills. We go to school and they teach us how to read and write, and they expect us to know how to speak and listen. Think about that for a minute. We go to English classes and they give you a passing grade, 8 plus 100 or whatever, because you are great at reading and writing. Mm-hmm. But you never really tested in your ability to listen. You're never really tested in your ability to speak in public. So if I'm somebody who is in high school or getting out of high school, I would tell you, forget whatever, like, there are the structural ways of learning. I believe in college. I believe in formal education. But I think formal education, you can make a living with formal education. With self-education, you have the capacity to create a fortune. And it may not necessarily be monetary. It could be, I work in the financial world, man. And I know this, Jerry, because I met you in person, but it's like, what's the value of somebody who's a really good father or a really good husband? Well, when you show up to Goldman Sachs, they don't give a crap about that. And I think they're wrong. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because there's different levels of worth. There's your worth as a father, as a husband. There's your worth as a businessman. There's your worth as a friend. So don't let the formal education dictate what you're good at or bad at. I think the verdict is out on that one already, though. You know what I mean? Especially now with so much online education, and there's so many smart people that have essentially gone in a different direction. But I still think that there's still a place in the world for structured formal education. It's not the end all be all, in my opinion. I don't know if that makes any sense.
It does. Yeah. I mean, even examples from I'll call them generations before, but mm-hmm. like Bill Gates and Mark Zuckerberg and so on. Like there's these countless Richard Branson, these countless people who may have started college and then dropped out or didn't even go to college, and they're like in earthly terms mega successful and so on. So it's not about the formal education, but it's about learning how to educate yourself in all kinds of ways, not just the formal education. But for some people, maybe some people need a little bit more structure and they need to go through a formal way of learning and so on too.
True.
So yeah, so
True.
definitely good points there about It's not like one size fits all kind of a thing. Each person
No,
has to figure that out for themselves.
true. And let me say this. So one of the things that keeps me up at night, right? So, and again, I don't even know how I ended up here, Jerry. To be honest, I just don't. I mean, I did my part. I did my part, but I do definitely feel like God has been a big help in my life in this on that side, you know. Um, but think about this for a minute. For 15 years, right? I've been helping people who have achieved what most people are trying to accomplish, which is to become self-made millionaires.
Hmm.
But what I'm here to tell you is, and this is why I feel like God is like, all right, Joe. So now you've become really good at this, but now I want you to do something else. And I'm like, what, God? He's like, now I want you to talk about how this is not the end all be all.
Hmm.
It's just crazy, man. Because it's like, what do you mean? I'm like, I'm having a conversation. He's like, what do you mean? He's like, well, look, what about you guy, you know, that person who hasn't talked to their children in 20 years, you know? Or that person that you're trying to talk to in the meeting who's on the beach at a family reunion and is on his laptop checking his stocks. I mean, guy's a multimillionaire a couple of times over. Is that successful? His wife is calling me, asking me, Joe, why do we have you? And my husband's on the phone at the beach at the family reunion, checking on his stocks on a Friday afternoon. Like, there's certain things that it's like. I want to go back to the question where you talked about what would I tell somebody in high school or a young person is really spend some time defining what success is. It's not what you think it is. And most people spend their whole life to get to that other side and they end up really empty. And I don't
Hmm.
pretend I have all the answers, but my thesis is this, Jerry. You can't be rich if you don't have health. You can't be rich if you don't have God, okay? You have to have some sort of North Star because just like there's good, there's evil, right? You can wake up one day with a monkey on your back and then you're out there doing things you ain't supposed to be doing.
Hmm.
You don't know why. You know what I mean? So you have to have some sort of North Compass, your higher power, God, which I choose to call God. So it's like you cannot become truly successful without some sort of North Star, my opinion. Okay? Um, and then as it relates to success, I also think you have to include, you know, my relationship with my kids, my family. You know, there's some days where I feel really wealthy with them, and some days where I feel like I'm going bankrupt. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So it's
Right.
like there's all these targets that if I miss, so say for example, I become a multimillionaire, right? But I forget about my family in the process, and I get to the top of that ladder, and I become really successful. Was I really successful? You know,
Right. It's all in the definition, like how you define success.
exactly.
Yeah. Actually, related to this topic, I've been thinking about it and I don't really have an answer, but maybe you do. Um, so a lot of people are kind of relativistic with the definition of success. It's like success for me is X, Y, Z. Success for you is whatever you define. Do you think there's a universal term or definition for success? Like success for everybody is this.
I don't know. So 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 I think you have to be say let's I don't think that's a universal definition, but there are some things that make success there are some universal principles that are part of success.
Hmm.
Like I said, can we even talk about success, man? Can we be doing this podcast? I mean, I feel like I'm talking about success. A lot of people talk about success, man. There's a lot of people in the industry talk about the 5 tips to get this and boom, boom, this and that. Everybody talks about success, but my thing is, it's like, can you really have to talk about success if I'm like in a hospital somewhere, you know, severely overweight, diabetic, or whatever, right? Some things are self-imposed. Some things happen to people, like, okay, but it's like, okay, so health is important in the conversation of success. I think a higher power is important. Relationships that matter is important, and then you have, and then success and money, I think, are related too,
Hmm.
because it's like, if you have a vision, right? Well, money helps in executing that vision, right? Take somebody like Elon Musk, right? Elon Musk does more because he's really brilliant, right? But he also has more too.
Right.
So when you have more, you can do more, you know? So I think that I think it's important. It's important to have a rough draft of a definition. So I was at a retreat not too long ago, and and this guy made me change my all my goals, bro, which was crazy. He said because I would normally do like annual goal setting,
Hmm.
and then I will create quarterly targets, and I've been living that lifestyle for a while. But again, every now, if you're aware, Jerry, God will throw you an underhand softball, bro, for you to knock it out of the park. So in this retreat, they had all these older guys, bro, that were very successful,
Hmm.
and they were asking these guys all different questions about family and some of the things we're talking about here, and then not one of those guys said, "I wish I would have worked more." That to me just blows my mind, bro. It blows
Yeah.
my mind, bro. And it was like, okay, so it's like, all right, so what does that mean to me, right? So if I'm not careful, Jerry, I can make work an addiction,
Hmm.
a compulsion, and if I'm not aware, when I when I'm in a compulsive state, I don't have peace, and when I don't have peace, I can't hear what God's trying to tell me. So, anyways, while we were at that retreat, the guy said, uh, "Let me see what he said. Plan, live in today, measure in the decade." That was it.
Hmm.
There's something beautiful about that, because it's like, so what I did when I came back, Darius, I just took my yearly plan and just created a 10-year target,
Okay.
a really big 10-year target that I said, okay, I'm 43. When I'm 53, if these things are in my life at that moment, I would consider today to be a success. Of course, I invited God in that conversation and said, God, where do you want me to be in 10 years? Right? And then created a kind of like a view and say, okay, but that allows me to live today a little bit more in step, as opposed to just trying to catch up, man. And for I lived like that for a long time, where it's like I always feel like I'm behind. You know what I mean? Like I'm never done with. Like I have 10 things on my to do list. I do 10, and I'm like, well, tomorrow I can do 15. I don't think it's supposed to be like that, right? You know what I mean? So, anyways, so I don't know if that makes any sense or not, man. But that's where my view on that.
Yeah. I mean, just to kind of recap, so success is not one thing. It's a comprehensive, like it's made up of different parts of your life. Like you mentioned, your health, your wealth, your relationships, your personal growth, all those kind of things. I think one I think Born to Win, I believe, was the book by Zig Ziglar. in there he has a wheel of life, and he kind of splits it up into like 7 categories. And he
Mm-hmm.
talks about having, when you're measuring it, measure each one, like the relationships, spirituality or growth, relationship with God, relationship with family, social relationships, and then your career, your finances. And the more, the higher the scale for each one that you can achieve, the rounder the wheel, and the rounder the wheel, the better you go in life. And if the wheel is not quite round, then you're kind of limping through life.
I know what you're referring to, and I didn't know it was Zig who did that. I think somebody might have really borrowed a big piece of that, or it sounds almost to me like a chunk. But there was a guy that did. I won't say his name in the context of what I'm saying, but there was a guy who did a annual goal setting thing, and he used that wheel. It was like at the beginning, and he was like, "Yeah, same concept. If your financial spoke is like at a 10, right? But you're on the verge of getting a divorce,
Right.
you said that, so your wheel looks kind of like this. You know what I mean? It's like all lopsided.
Right.
But yeah, the thing with that is, Jerry, is like I asked myself this question: um, how many people do you think are aware that that wheel even exists, man, or self conscious? That like you hear people like um, you hear the successful people already talking about it, which is great, but I don't know. Sometimes I wonder how many people actually are aware that dynamic is at play. And what
Mm-hmm.
I've discovered, and as I was saying to you before, Jerry, is like that's why I believe, and I don't know. Maybe I'm getting older now. Maybe I'm getting closer to my deathbed, which is I'm becoming more God conscious. But what I find is like if my relationship with God is good, then my relationship with myself has a shot,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then if I'm okay, then my relationship with my wife has a chance. Okay, because I don't need her to make me feel good, complete me, Um, and by the way, my marriage is not perfect, and like nobody's is, but it's like that's why it's like that pyramid. That's why you asked me that question. What would your advice be? And it's like, man, I really do think that it really starts with some sort of humility in asking for divine help. You know what I'm saying? Like, okay, I thought I had it together, but I don't. I need
Mm-hmm.
some help, God. Can you help me out here? Like I'm lost. Please help me. And that's why I came back and I was like, I redid my goals. So I took my 1 year goal and I made it a 10 year goal. And I was like, okay, I got my 10 year goals, and I'm still gonna do the quarterly game, but I'm trying to hit a 10 year target as opposed to an annual target.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see what happens. I mean, I don't know. I haven't tried that before. It's my first time, so if I start falling off the wagon really bad, then I might go back to the 1 year again.
Would you, in that case, would you still measure yearly as well, or
Yeah,
would you just measure the 10 year?
I would measure yearly. I would measure. Well, I would have my quarterly targets, which are measured quarterly, obviously.
Yeah.
But on an annual basis, yeah, absolutely. I mean, but the question at that point then becomes, as when I measure the 1 year, it's not like, oh, I told myself that I was going to do these things this year. It's more like, this year I did this, and am I closer to my 10 year outcome or further away?
Mm-hmm.
Did you see the difference?
I'm
Because I
trying.
would. Mhm.
I'm trying to, yeah. So like, I guess in my mind, because I've been thinking about that as well. Like, and actually, I put like a 10 year goal last year for myself.
Nice.
Um, but um, but if you take that 10 year goal, and usually the way I work is kind of reverse engineer it and break it into either 5 or eventually into like a 1 year. So like, what is my goal for this year based on my 10 year target, kind of a thing. So to me, it's still like, if I miss that 1 year, then I guess by default I'm falling behind on my 10-year. Right? I guess that's how I'm thinking. I'm not sure if that's.
Yeah, no, I think what you just described is very similar to the way I'm doing things now. Before, what I did, Jerry, is I would say at the end of the year, this is what I'm going to do. Well, I would use I am statements. I am 200 pounds or whatever, right? Like, and my goals will be set around those pillars that we talked about, right? So it's like, but what would happen is, Jerry, is I would have all these goals and I would accomplish a lot of things,
Hmm.
but I never would accomplish all of them, man.
Well, yeah, it's.
Yeah. So that part of it, it was like, where is the consciousness in achievement there? You know what I mean? Like if I do 80% of everything I said I was going to do, is that successful? Now that might be a personal Joe issue, but like I'm really hard on myself, man. When I tell myself I'm gonna do A, B, and C, if I don't do it, then I'm like, oh man, you were slacking this year. We got to wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning now, as opposed to 6, and it's. So I think the how can I say this? If life is a journey, right, and I'm going to Australia, it doesn't really, like, to me, it's like, as long as I get to Australia, this is great, bro. I
Yeah.
just don't want to end up like in Africa, you know what I mean? Because or Europe, you know what I mean, or South America, it's like that's a whole different destination. So every year I can say, well, am I getting closer to where I'm going?
Hmm. Yeah.
So we'll see how it works, man. I mean, this is the first time I'm doing this, and uh, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, that sounds good. What do you find rewarding or most rewarding in your career?
What do I find most rewarding in my career? There's a lot, bro. Um, you know, I'm in an industry, man, where I did a post on this yesterday. Um,
The anger one?
Let me see. Was it the anger one? Um, no, it was the day before yesterday. Yeah. So the post that I did was like, for example, an attorney, right? An attorney can save your life,
Hmm.
right? Keep you out of jail, or an attorney can put you in jail forever, right? Depending on, a doctor can save your life or he can kill you. So in like my world, man, you know, some people that I know have told me, like, Joe, you don't give yourself enough credit, but I feel like there's a lot of specialized knowledge, um, that really can help protect people, um, because not all information is created equal in Wall Street. You know what I mean? Like, uh, so really being able to help people and educating them on it, it's kind of like, how can I explain this? It's like if we're going on a trip, right, Jerry? But like, let's say you don't know what a GPS is, right? But I
Hmm.
have one, and then I tell you what my GPS does. I say we're going on a road trip. I become valuable to you because I have the GPS.
Yeah.
But then when you want to use it, then I'll be like, no, only I can use the GPS.
You,
But when
you're.
you're in the car with me, you benefit. You benefit
Uh huh.
because I'll take you to where you want to go. What for me I find really fulfilling is helping people understand the GPS and how
Hmm.
to use it. My role in my specialized knowledge on how to use the GPS, um, and really protecting people from sometimes themselves. Like, that really makes me happy, man. Like, just to think about that God put me in a place where what I know can protect people from causing, um, you know, really bad mistakes, you know. You know, you hear about these things all the time, you know, people, fraudulent advisors, and just like a financial advisor can make you rich, he can also make you go broke.
Yeah, like Ponzi schemes and stuff like that.
Yeah, Ponzi schemes or crooks or you know things like that, man. There's all sorts of people. So I really like giving people. You know, if I could tell you how many, if I had $5, you know, they used to say a dollar, but now we got to go to five for inflation. But if I have $5 for every time somebody tells me that I've given them better sleep at night, bro, I just love that, man. That's the best feeling in the world, man. People say, Joe, I have you because we do, but because I have you, I get to sleep good at night.
Hmm.
And it's not in my wildest imagination that I think I'll be in the sleep business, but I am.
Yeah, I mean, I find a common thread where when people serve other people through their work, business, whatever they do, they find that thing rewarding. Like how the other person receives that service and what happens to them, the positive things based on that service is what becomes rewarding for the person serving.
Mm-hmm.
So um, it's a great thing. Um, in your career, maybe you're perfect, maybe not, but if you have had
You're the wrong
setbacks,
guy. Okay.
if you've had setbacks or failures, how did you bounce back from them, and what lessons did you learn?
Setbacks or failures. How do you bounce back from them? Um, Man, I think the answer I'm going to give to you, it's evergreen in effectiveness and also in difficulty, man. And
Hmm.
the truth will set you free. There's nothing better than the truth, man. Like in terms of difficulties. So like step number one is like just recognize that I'm in a difficulty situation. I want you to think about for a minute, right? How many times, um, you know, how many times I'll speak for myself, man, because there's something about like when you speak in generalities. You know, a lot of these motivational speakers say when people talk about this, like, bro, tell me about you. You know what I'm saying? Like, tell me about this, man, because it's like sometimes I feel like it's so easy to go down that lane. Let me just tell you about me, man. For me personally, um, the quicker I can get to face the truth, that's 50% of bouncing back, right?
Hmm.
Awareness that there's a problem. And the reason why I say that is because, you know, what happens when you don't reach that awareness? Then you enter what I call a fantasy world. A fantasy world in which is filled with guilt, shame, and blame.
Hmm.
Okay, so you're not in reality, and in that fantasy world, you'll never find the answer. Okay, in that fantasy world is what I call the enemy.
Hmm.
The enemy wants to keep you in that fantasy world. Be like, oh, you know, like, like it's like you get further and further away from the truth, man. Then you build this like fantasy world, and it's like, okay, you'll never bounce back from your problems in that world, ever.
They just
Step number one,
compound. They just
huh?
compound. They just
Compound.
compound in that. Yeah.
Compounds, yeah, compounds, and the pain. Let's go back to what you asked me earlier. I said, look, you either increasing your capacity to believe or your tolerance for pain.
Yeah.
In that world, there's a lot of pain, bro. A lot of pain. There's a reason why, you know, in America, there's a lot of medications designed for pain management,
Hmm.
right? So So I give an example. About 3 years ago, I was like 250 pounds. 250 pounds. And I lost like 50 pounds. Thank God I've been able to keep it up, right? But it's like go to the doctor and they were like, well, you're we'll have to put you in some pre-diabetic medication. It's like that. It's like, okay, well, that's, to me, in my opinion, it's like that's fantasy world management, bro.
Mm-hmm.
Guilt, shame, all this. Because I'm not diabetic yet. You know what I mean? And thank God for COVID, because when COVID hit, it was like, okay, now not only you're pre-diabetic, but this COVID thing, it targets people like you who are obese, like who got weight problems and all this. So it's like the truth will set you free, you know, which is why I believe like, it's just so important, man. Like it's important to read books, have mentors. But to me, I think the ultimate demonstration of humility, um, to me today is on my knees, bro. They say it's hard to stumble on your knees.
Mm.
So that's to me how resilience. To me, that's how I handle being resilient, because uh, here's the other thing I'll tell you too, Jared, from personal experience. So it's like I'm not strong enough to get out of the fantasy world on my own. Process that one, bro.
Yeah, yeah.
Once I land there, bro, there's aspects of me that like it.
Well, that or it could be just like you mentioned, shame and guilt and so on, and you're like, well, I don't want to look bad because stating the truth, we feel like we're gonna look bad. We don't want to look bad in front of whoever, that we failed, that we did whatever we shouldn't have done, or whatever the case may be, right? So we want to like hide whatever happened, and hiding it makes it worse.
100%. And then sometimes and here's the interesting part, because you asked the question about what is success, right? And I would say because I don't even know how I got here, right? I mean, I did certain parts of it. I don't want to diminish myself and my efforts and what I did, but I know definitely that God was along me, with protecting me and guiding me through a certain extent. But it's like, okay, um, asking God what is the truth in my life too, bro. You know what I'm saying? Like, what is the truth? I'll give you an example, right? So yesterday I had a bit of a strong discussion with my kids, right? And I felt like they were disrespecting me.
Hmm.
So I had to kind of level the playing field a little bit, right? Um, I felt bad, Jerry, afterwards. You know, I don't like to have those conversations. I want everything to be nice and fluffy all the time.
Right.
But so get this, right? So that happened. Then I'm having a talk with God, right? And I'm like, God, man, do I owe an apology here?
Mm-hmm.
This is where it meets the rubber, bro, for me, because this is the balancing act between that fantasy world and the truth.
Right.
And in
Right.
that, now I would tell you 90% of the time, God would say, you know, you need to apologize. But in this case, he just basically pointed me in a different direction. He was like, look, Joe, where I'm taking you and what I need you to become, you got to be able to speak up when things are not looking the right way. This
Yeah.
is your job as a king of your house. I was like, whoa, this that's a lot to process, bro. But yeah, so to me, that I think that higher power component is critical in being able to stay in the present and in the truth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So I mean that makes great sense in terms of like when you went through setbacks, when you get back into the truth is when you start digging yourself out or with help, versus like not staying or going towards the truth and just staying in the lies and the shame and so on, and then just digging a bigger hole. um we touched a little bit without even talking about the word itself, but work life balance, right? Like a lot of people have different views of it. A lot of business owners kind of maybe even resent that word. They're like, there is no such thing as work life balance.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm kind of like on the maybe in that camp
Yeah.
of saying there is no such thing. It's kind of like we're living one life, and we got to integrate it, like between family, between God, between work, between physical activities or working out or whatever it is. Like we have one life to live, and it's not like, okay, I'm going to work, then I'm going to sit at home and do nothing or do whatever at home or whatever the case. What
Right.
what is your view on it, and how do you go about it in your personal life?
Man, the story of my life, bro, is I go back. You asked me a question. That's why I had to give it some thought. Like, what advice would you give to the youth, right?
Yeah.
And you really got to be careful when you give advice. If you actually give a damn about the people that are going to listen to this, right? So
Yeah.
it's like you know, work life balance, man. I've learned from pain more uh, than by being humble and having more faith and praying and seeking God's guidance. I think it looks different for everybody. Um, it really depends. Like it really depends what season of life you're in, bro. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
There's like different seasons. You know what I'm saying? There's seasons where there will be no work life balance. Um, and there are seasons where you'll probably have more balance than you're used to. You know what? I share something with you, Jerry. It's like lately, in the last probably 6 months or so, I'm having the biggest level of discomfort in my life by trying to manage peace.
Hmm.
Bro, I got a lot of peace, but I'm not used to having all this peace. I'm starting to realize that I operate better in chaos.
But
And,
it sounds like with your daughters, you're moving into that chaos period of time.
mm-hmm.
No, I have two daughters as well. They're older now, and it can definitely be challenging. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So there's seasons, right? So if I'm always, I think of the old standard vehicle. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like the five gauges or whatever, what
Stick
they call
shift,
it, gears. Yeah, the stick
stick
shift.
shift.
Yeah. If you're always, pedal to the metal, top gear. You know what I mean? Like bad things are going to happen, bro. Like and that's what I'm saying, Jerry. Is like, and look, I'm not. I wish there's there's really people uh, that are probably more qualified to talk about the conversation of God than me, bro. But I can only speak about my relationship with God, and it's like, how do you know which gear you need to be on,
Hmm.
and how are you going to tell somebody what gear they need to be on? See, I'm more like there are gears, right? And since I don't know which gear I need to be on, I need my higher power, which I call God, to direct me, right? So I give you an example, bro. So when I lost all that weight, right, just so you know a little bit about my history, and you've seen this, when I lost all that weight, bro, I went from 250 pounds to 197, right? And guess where my mind went, Jerry? I was like, 185 is the new target.
Was that healthy for you, or no, that was not a healthy target? I don't know. Like,
It's healthy.
okay,
Ironically enough, it's the number that was on my military ID when I joined, when I was
okay,
18 years old. But I got caught up in this thing, like there's always growth, there's always the next thing, and this and that, right? Which, by the way, there are a lot of people that can argue very well for that theory, bro. And they'll
hmm
say you don't ever want to get complacent. Growth is everything. So it's like, I get it. I've studied on many of those guys, but the thing is like it's like I kept pushing, and then I ended up tearing my Achilles ankle.
hmm
Now I'm out for a year. And I think that there's something about that Achilles that's symbolic of life, bro, and work-life balance. It's like, dude, if you become like super dad and super husband, you're like smothering your wife 24/7, blah blah. You neglect your business, you neglect your health. Sooner or later, your wife is gonna be like, back up. You know what I'm saying? I
yeah,
need some space. You know what I'm saying? So it's like I feel like like in the mornings when I wake up in the morning, bro. I've been doing this. Not always have I done this, Jerry. I'm like I would consider myself a new member in the path of like practicing faith. Well, always believed in God, but like in terms of like spiritual practices, it's like I wake up in the morning and I ask God, what do you want me to do today? Just like that, bro.
yeah,
And the responses you get from that question, it just lets you know that there is something out there that's really keeping tabs of everything. Sometimes God would tell me specifically, you got to call this client who's doing this, or send so and so a card. They're going through a hard situation, or you know what, you really need to spend some time talking to your kids. They're going through a lot of stuff at school, or you know what, maybe you need to read this, or let's work on our goals right now. Let's renew the goals. So it's like sometimes God is very specific, but sometimes God would just say, look, man, just maintain your peace today and just move throughout the day. Like this is what he told me this morning. He's like, remember, you're a walking billboard for me. Damn, bro. That'll slow you down right there, bro. It's like, what are you talking about, God? Like that's a lot of pressure, man. I wanna snap sometimes, man, and not have to worry about anything, So it's like so what does that have to do with work-life balance, bro? It actually has a lot to do with it, bro. Go back and you read this one post that I did on the CEO of Zappos.
hmm
Did you see that one or no?
I don't think I saw it, but I'm familiar with
I'll
the
send it to you. I
CEO.
did it on Medium. I did it on Medium. So on Zappos, so this is a guy, bro, who was the epitome of a business mind, man. The
hmm
epitome. He had the shoe company. You remember Zappos, the shoe
Yeah,
company?
yeah,
Sold it to Amazon for close to 2 billion, 1.5 billion. Okay? Within months of him getting out of there, he had a bunch of leeches around him. His own family was hurting, like taking money from him. The dude started like sniffling glue and playing with fire and doing all this crazy stuff. So it's like, okay. And by the way, Tony, thank you for letting me use your story. I don't mean any disrespect, but it's like, so what's the point here, man? That guy was all in on business, man. But there were some things that really, you know, were missing, bro. And by all definition, he was in front of Forbes, in front of all these magazines. He was like the poster child of success. So for me, that's the part I was like, I think God has a plan for everybody, but if you ain't got peace, you'll never really be able to hear what that is. You know what I mean?
hmm
Because you're always following or chasing whatever's next.
yeah, yeah, and whether it's work-life balance or other things, what I picked up with just you explaining your view on that is, as far as advice, giving somebody advice and so on. the way what I picked up from there, from what you said, is you need to be in tune with everything. Like, as I'm growing older, I'm learning a lot better to be in tune with my physical body. Like, what you eat, how it's going to affect you. If you eat good food, it's going to give you energy. If you eat bad food, it's going to make you drowsy, sleepy, whatever it is. So you like eventually learn as you get older. Hopefully, the younger you are and you learn that, the better it is for you to take that feedback from your body.
Yeah.
And then, act accordingly. But it's not just the body, right? It's relationships with our spouses, with our children, with others.
That's
There's
so good.
always feedback coming to us, and we can learn, adjust to that. So, and then same thing with business, how we can have all kinds of indicators if we want to, or we should, whatever our goals are, what are our numbers that we're tracking, and we have that feedback, and based on that feedback, change things or adjust accordingly. And likewise with God, how do we hear Him or don't hear Him? Like the way you speak, like you're really listening. You're asking for advice from God, and you're really listening to it and adjusting based on that. So what I'm picking up from this whole thing about any kind of balance is we need to really hear and listen to those indicators, that feedback from all around us.
1,000%. But furthermore, so right now we're having a conversation, right, Jared? I said some things, you heard them, you processed them, and you responded to me.
Mm-hmm.
That's a conversation. It's very different than communication. I can make a noise here, you can hear it. And we're communicating. I make this noise, you hear it, that's communication, right?
Yeah.
Conversation's different, right? So it's like, there's a lot of noise, man, today. A
Mm-hmm.
lot of noise. There's a lot of people that sound like they really got the answer. Like they figured it out. And what I'm telling you is because I have an incredible privilege of having the ability to help people who have gotten there and who are not on social media posting their vehicles, and whatever, by the way, shout out to those people. There's nothing wrong with that. Um, what I'm saying is in order to hear it, you called it synchrony, right? Is that what the term you use? In sync is what you use. In tune.
In tune, yeah.
You said in tune. So in order for you to be in tune, you have to be out of tune to some things.
Mm-hmm.
Because if right now, man, I have my radio playing and the TV playing and my kids in the back, and you had your kids in the back, there's no conversation.
Right.
There's too much noise. So what I'm learning, bro, at this stage in my life is that's called the absence of that noise. It's peace.
Mm-hmm.
And in order to have peace, you need the absence of the noise, which is important to have a conversation with my Creator, who gives me balance. Listen to this question. So I was on a date right before I came here, Jared, and I didn't know the dress code. I was going to put a suit and tie on, but I was like, man,
That's fine.
I'm just going to show up. But I was at Barnes and Nobles, and I jotted down this question because I think I'm going to base my next post on this one. It says, which of my current views would change if my incentives were different?
Mm-hmm.
Boy, I love that question, man. So you can take that question. We could probably do a different podcast off that, because it's like, which of my current views would change if my incentives were different? Then what I would ask of that particular question is, where are your current views coming from that they're so easily adjustable?
Right, right. Are there like principles that you're following, and no matter what happens, you're following these principles, or is it just you're going with the wind?
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah. Anyways, yeah, I don't know where we were going with that, but it's good stuff right here.
Yeah. So kind of transitioning to a different category of, and we somewhat talked about it already a little bit, and that is personal development and intellectual kind of development. So,
Hmm.
how do you go about learning new information? How do you go about being motivated to even want to learn some new information and bettering yourself and so on? Like, what really drives you when it comes to intellectual, uh, like expanding your intellectual capacity, or like reading books, whatever you do to better yourself intellectually?
Yeah, that's become my new addiction, man. I don't know why, but I absolutely love reading, bro, and I love learning. It's not a new addiction. I mean, it's I've been doing this for since 2000. When they had CDs, I used to listen to the audio. Zig Ziglar used to call it Automobile University, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Uh, yeah. So I don't know the answer as to what motivates me. Um, I was really impacted by that initial statement that you don't need to, you know, in the environment where I grew up, there were a lot of people that felt that there was no way out, and that they can never be an out because they're like, look, man, we're screwed, like this is the way it is.
Hmm.
So learning for me has been a pathway um, to become a more valuable person, right? And and I love helping people. I love helping people, um, which is why I came to this podcast here with you today, right? Because we met and it was like, I know you're just getting your show started, and I'm like,
Yeah.
I want to support it, bro. I want to see you do well. I really do, from my heart,
Yeah.
So so I was like, whatever I can do, I'm gonna do. Yeah, I told my wife we were doing this, and so far I'm really enjoying the conversation. Which anyways, so where does the motivation come from? Uh, I don't know. I guess I like to become more valuable. The more valuable that I am, the more value that I can help other people with. Come to find out, bro, that as I'm starting to read the Bible, um, Jesus got a thing or two to say about that too.
Hmm.
Which I'm starting to find that there's a lot of principles in there, but it's like, wow, man, this dude was like on something else, man. He was like, if the tree has no fruit, cut it down. I was like, okay. I I was like, okay, maybe that's why I'm still here. You know what I mean? Because accidentally, I've been in an environment where it's like I'm always trying to figure out, like, I love teaching what I've learned. It's in my DNA. I don't know what it is about it. Um, and yeah, that was the question, right? What's my motivation,
Right.
or what was the question? How do I go about it? Or
Yeah, how do you continuously improve yourself, and then what's your motivation behind wanting to learn and like increase your intellectual capacity and so on?
yeah, so the other part of it, I think I answered the second part. How do I go about it? Um, I've been fortunate to have many mentors since I decided to open my mind and like be willing to learn. There's this thing that I do. Um, every, I have this thing called the Power Hour. So like in the morning, I wake up and there's a process that I do. I do journaling. Uh, I read. Um, and interesting, what I've done with my reading is I've divided my books into those categories that I was telling you about.
Hmm.
So So I have like spiritual books, books on health, books on family relationships, books on money, right? And I'll just like I'll do that check in, right, and say, okay, well, where am I at in these categories? Well, it looks to me like after I'm done with this book, I'm probably gonna be reading a parenting book because that area I've been struggling with a little bit, right? So it's like, so what I do is I pick a category. So I have this power hour thing, and in the morning, um, you know, I spend at least an hour. It's turned out to be a lot more, bro. Now, so I usually spend like 2 hours
Mm.
doing my morning routine, which includes about a 45-minute walk in the morning. So I do like a 45-minute walk, and I spend about an hour reading, journaling, um, at least 2 hours. And I've done it to a point now where it's like I try to be done by 9 o'clock before the workday starts. Um, and I call it the power hour because it's like that's how I get myself in a position of power
Hmm.
to have my heart and my mind and my body physically ready to go.
That's really good.
Yeah, and I do it every day, bro. And Monday through Sunday, um, yeah, without miss.
So you've created a great routine in the morning with
Yeah,
that.
yeah. It's that to me has become a habit.
Yeah. We talked a little bit about, you even mentioned like the information or the noise around us, with a lot of like information overload. Like there's everybody's talking about everything. You can find anything, or you can find anybody talking about any subject. How do you manage that information overload when it comes to wanting to learn something? Like you mentioned even about parenting. How do you decide, okay, I'm going to read this book versus that book on parenting or on whatever topic you pick?
How do I decide what to read, and how do I decide? And I guess the part of that question is, how do I minimize the noise? Is that right?
Right, right. How do you find the jewel amongst the ground when it comes
Mhm.
to the information that you're looking for?
Yeah, so a lot. That's a great question. So a lot of times, what'll happen is I'm reading a book, and then like that book will reference another book, and then I'll make a note of it. Might be a podcast, and the guy says I was reading this, and you know, or maybe I'm talking to somebody, and they say I recommend this book. Like I was smoking a cigar the other day, and this one guy was like, "Hey, I recommend this book." I thought about it, and I was like, okay. I went in and listened to the and made a note of the book. Um, but I say something else on this. So it's like one of the best ways to cancel out the noise, in my opinion, is to have purpose in your own noise. So everything that I do, even with a post that I make, look, bro, I don't care who likes my post. Like I know right now I don't have a specific niche or specific. All I'm doing is repetitions.
Hmm.
People have no idea what I'm doing. I know what I'm doing. So what I do is I learn and then I teach. I don't even care who's listening. Okay? Because when it's time for me to go teach something, I'll be ready. So one of the best ways for me to associate social media is to become a producer, not a consumer. What you're doing, look at what you're doing, Jared. You're now a producer. Okay? You were a consumer. Now you're a producer. It's pretty cool, man. So the idea is it's like you want to become a producer 90% of the time and consume 10%.
Yeah.
My view on it.
Okay. That's good. Definitely. Like when it comes to consumer producer, way back I had those thoughts. Like I wanted to make video games back probably 10, 15 years ago or whatever. And I was thinking like all these
Instead of
people.
just playing them.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm like, gotta make something and actually produce or I think I was using a different word for it or whatever. But um, yeah, I mean, if you just consume everything, eventually I feel like your life becomes meaningless. It's like, I'm just bored of this and that. But when you're giving back, when you're doing something, when you're producing, when you're serving, you actually get the joy of it. When you see somebody else succeed and you had some kind of involvement in it, you actually feel good about yourself or even if it's not yourself, but you just get that good feeling. Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. So, when it comes to like family and close friend relationships, um, what have you learned in your life up to this point when it comes to relationships? Like what lessons have you learned?
Less is more.
So elaborate on that.
Quality over quantity.
So number of relationships, you mean?
uh, Quality, meaning I'd rather have a small group of friends than just to have like be really popular and all these people call me friend. Um, man, that's a slippery slope, man. I give you an example, right? So I don't drink, right? I don't drink alcohol. So I went to smoke the cigar, right? The other day, I'm at the cigar shop with this guy, and he tries to buy me a drink, and I tell him I don't drink.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, um, but he asked me 3 times. Okay, so so at that point I was like, okay, well, it kind of became a little bit awkward, but then he started telling me, he's like, why you don't drink? I said, man, to tell you the truth, it just what it did for my quality of life, it wasn't very good. You know what I mean? Like, I'm like a pretty good guy, but like that took away from that. It made everything harder for me, managing my health, my relationships, my responsibilities. Like it took away from it. It was a net negative for me.
Mm-hmm.
For those people that like to have their drinks and they can handle it and it has zero impact on their life, go for it. Okay. But anyway, so he starts opening up, right? And he tells me, he says, well, alcohol has caused me all kind of problems, right? He said, but I wouldn't have a social life without it. All my friends are drinkers.
Mm-hmm.
So So ironically, when I came home, I was thinking to myself that this is how my brain processes things, and this is why you need a filter, right? I was like, well, I don't have a social life. That's what I took away from it. But my social life is not very good, man. Like I'm thinking like I'm a loser, man. I don't have a social life because I don't drink, blah blah. And I was thinking afterwards, and I was like, no, so I was talking to God about it. It's like no, 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 no. It's like, is that the kind of friends that you want to have? Like the friends that are only going to socialize if there's alcohol involved?
Right.
Is that what you call a social life? You know what I mean? Like so, and I knew that answer, bro. But sometimes I don't know if that ever happens to you, Jerry. You know the answer, but there's a challenge that comes up, and it creates a mental blank spot in your mind where you almost magically forget about the answer you already know.
Yeah.
It's like you go back into that fantasy world that we were talking about with the guilt, the shame, and the blah blah blah, and then next thing you know, you're like, oh, poor me, and all this, and it's like, nah, nah, nah. It's like, dude, if you think like, if you want to say, okay, those are your friends, and you drink because your friends drink, and then you feel like if you didn't drink, drinking's not good for you, according to your own words, but you're gonna drink because otherwise you feel like you wouldn't have friends or a social life, as he called it. So, so yeah. So that actually took place. So for me, to answer your question about friendships and quality of friendships, man, this guy that I met, super powerful person, bro. A lot of influence. I'll be honest, bro. Like, like, you know what I mean? Like, not a prime candidate for somebody I want to be hanging out with every weekend. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like, it's okay. It's okay. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So
Jesus
quality.
had Jesus had 12 tight friends, bro, and one of them betrayed him.
Yeah.
So, so I think there's a principle in that. You know what I mean? Like he could have chose 1,000, chose 12. So so it's the same thing for me, man. I like to have close group of friends, and I think also you know, and I like to have depth in my friendships too, bro. It's like I don't know if you've been around people, man, but a lot of times I feel like you don't know who you're dealing with. You know what I mean? Like with this guy, man, after he offered me 3 times and I told him no, then we got to the bottom of it and he's like, I don't want to do this, but I do it because of this. But it's like, bro, that was a lot of work, bro. Why don't you just come
Yeah.
out and tell me I struggle with this too, but I do it because I need some friends? Okay, now we're at the truth. Let's move forward. You know what I'm saying? But it's like a lot of times I don't like. It's like it's hard for me to figure out, you know, and I don't want to be that guy. So my thing is I'm practicing the art of being fully transparent and just being self-aware enough. Like, and I don't want to be around people where I feel like I have to perform.
Right. Right. So like he was living in that fantasy land, right? He didn't want to. He didn't get to the truth until that third ask or after that third ask, right?
Right.
So it took him a while to get out of that fantasy land when it came to that topic.
Yeah. And he got to the truth by stress testing my truth
Mm-hmm.
because he asked me 3 times. So
Yeah.
he's like, he just kept going, like, man, come on, man, I can't believe this, man, blah, blah. How are we going to do business? I'm like, we probably won't, bro. And that's okay. And that's okay, bro. You can be, you know, you can be, whoever you're going to be. Like, not everybody's a good fit. Not everybody's a good fit for business. You know this, Jared.
Yeah.
Not everybody's a good fit for business. Not everybody's good to have around in your family. You got to be very selective
Right.
who you allow in your home, especially when you got girls. You got to be very selective. My friendships, man. I've had a ton of friends, man. Growing up, and what I'm finding is that the older I'm getting, the pools get smaller, bro.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what it is, bro, but maybe I don't know. Maybe I'm not as fun to be around with. I don't know, but I think in there's only so much time in the day, right? And it's like there's people that come to me and they're transparent and like, Joe, I need your help, bro. This is where I'm at. Bro, I'll spend all day with you in that space. But like I don't want to be like you know, like friendships with people you don't know who you're dealing with. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like
Yeah.
I'll bring my laundry, you bring your laundry, we do the laundry together, bro. Period. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
and I don't know if you noticed that, but like to me, it appears that there's not that many people like that, or maybe I'm looking in the wrong places. But it just feels like there's a lot of layers to folks. Sometimes that you don't know exactly who. Sometimes it's difficult to understand who I'm dealing with. So when you get to the core of the onion, I would consider those people like a friend,
Mm-hmm.
somebody in my inner circle. Show me your inner onion, you might be in my inner circle. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? But if you're coming up to me, man, and like you got all this stuff going on, man, I'm like, oh man, like I try to figure out where you're at, and.
Yeah. Yeah. So, what are some practices or routines that help you build strong relationships or strong and healthy relationships with, well, within friends and as well as like within the family?
Um, so so I believe I have assets and liabilities, bro, or
Hmm.
I would say strengths and areas of opportunity, as they call it in the SWOT analysis. I really like that one a lot better than liability. Um, the book I'm reading right now, Jared. Listen to this. I'm gonna let you take a wild guess. So you take a wild guess why you. I'm reading this one right here.
How to speak and how to listen. Nice.
Yeah. So this guy actually wrote a book that's called How to Read a Book. Now let me tell you something, bro. If you think you know how to read a book, read that guy's book, How to Read a Book.
Hmm.
Blew my mind. So, anyways, why did I get this book? Because I could definitely improve in listening, bro. Now I feel real comfortable in this environment. I'm doing a lot of the talking because you're the interviewer.
Mm-hmm.
So, I guess we could be, if I was asking you questions, the dynamic would probably be a little bit different, right? If I was asking the questions, you would be doing most of the talking. Right. But in a regular conversation or in a conversation with my kids or my wife, just trying to become a better listener, bro. And I'm realizing that even though I'm in the listening business, because it's what I do for a living, there's a lot of work that could be used. So think about that, Jerry. So it's like writing, that's a skill.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Reading, that's a skill. Speaking, that's a skill. Listening, that's a skill. So that's what I'm learning from this book right here.
Yeah.
So I got this book. You were asking me, well, Joe, how do you pick up the next book? Well, from this guy, I read the book, How to Read a Book. And then he said, oh, in my book, I also wrote How to Speak and How to Listen. And I was like, wow. So if this dude who went so deep into this particular book, he wrote a book on listening. So I put it on my list, and it was time. And then this is the one I'm on right now.
Nice. So when it comes to building strong relationships, listening is what you do. Okay, got it.
Listening, yeah. I mean,
I didn't listen.
yeah, exactly. Well, yeah. Well, and again, Jerry, you might be a great listener. Maybe your job is to learn how to say it well.
Yeah, right? I think a little bit of influence comes from personality types, right? Like outgoing people usually speak well, but they don't listen as well. And people who are more introverted, they listen better than they speak.
Yeah.
So we all need to improve in all kinds of areas, but yeah.
Right, but in a conversation, I don't think you have the luxury to say I'm an introvert or an extrovert, because you still got to do both.
Yes. Right?
So we're going to play tennis. If we're playing tennis together, you expect me to hit that ball back.
Right.
At some point. So it's like, so in relationships, it's like communication and conversation is key. So I recognize that that's an area of opportunity for me. So I'm reading a little bit on that. So, and then try to practice it.
Yeah. So when it comes to let's see, I have a bunch of questions, but I'm kind of reading through which one to ask you. When it comes to disagreements and conflicts, how do you handle those?
Disagreements and conflicts. Man, you know what's crazy, bro? It depends where with the context of the disagreement and who is with.
Mm-hmm. Do you handle it differently based on that?
I shouldn't, but I do. So, for example, in business, because I'm emotionally detached from the situation, I tend to my ability to make quality decisions, in my view, if I'm evaluating myself like as a third person,
mm-hmm.
I think it's very good, bro. Very good. I mean, otherwise I wouldn't be in I wouldn't be in the business I'm in. But bro, when it's like in the home, or it's a turmoil with my spouse or with my children, or even with my family members, there's there is a there's definitely a layer of complexity that makes those decisions much more difficult.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so as you saw in my post, you know, that serenity prayer is a tool. God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And then the other one I learned from another mentor. He said, Joe, you got a PVP: pause, breathe, proceed.
Mm-hmm.
Pause. And I was telling him, I was like, man, it's the pause that gives me every time, man. It's the
It's hard,
pause, man.
hard to pause.
Yeah, man, because a lot of times you don't even realize what the heck's going on. Like when your emotions are, um, you know, when your emotions are disturbed, you know, that pause is, you know, it's like telling a guy who's about to rear end somebody, like,
Mm-hmm.
break. You know, by the time you got that close, bro, you're too close. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's a very similar situation. So, but you know, I was listening to, you probably heard of Ray Dalio. So I've been
Yeah.
studying him for a long time. For me, I find his work kind of a bit of a treat because he does a lot of stuff on the wealth management side and also the life side. So I kind of get like a 2-for-1 with him.
Mm-hmm.
But I follow him real closely on the investment side. But he was talking about studying your situations and like keeping a journal of like situations you run into and developing principles that tackle those situations as you come upon them. Um, which I love the idea. There's a lot of great ideas, Jerry, but the thing is like finding the time and just the discipline to execute on them. You know what I'm saying? It's
Right.
like I love that idea, and and I would like, and I think I've tried it a couple of days, but I'm not consistent with that. I should be, but there are some other things that I'm consistent with. So it's like try to balance it out.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, so moving on, we talked a little bit about social, as far as your involvement in like what your social life is like, and
Yeah,
that guy told you you don't have social life. Well, he didn't tell you, but that's how you interpreted
it's what I heard.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, what is your social life like?
Um. So things have changed quite a bit, right? So I would have to say, what do you mean by social life, right? Because that if you ask 100 people that what's social life, you're going to get 100 different answers.
So, relationships outside of your family.
Yeah. So I would say, probably over the last 2 years, um, no, not 2 years, bro. This I have to go back. I'd say probably about 4 years ago, bro. I really had like one of this come to Jesus moments. I'm like, okay, I got all these people in my life. It's like, but I really had to take a hard look at like I had a big time social life back then, according to the definition.
Hmm.
And I was going out 3-4 times a week. Going to different cigar bars, spending time with friends. Um, or what I would say, quote unquote, friends. Um, today, I find more solace in. Um, I definitely gravitate definitely a lot more towards men. You know what I mean? Like men, uh, other heads of families, and like things like that. Like other men with families and that have similar situations. Um, Folks in church, I find that or associated with some sort of like, yeah, some sort of like um, not necessarily Bible study, but just folks that are affiliated or associated with the church. So I meet with those folks probably twice a week. Um, and then lately, in an effort to kind of reinvigorate a little bit of that, so because I realized, it's like I have skills to make friends, but I want to make the friends that I feel are right for me in my life or in the stage where I'm at. So I've been going to these retreats, with other men that have a thirst for growing their faith with God, and um, most of these folks have essentially dropped the mask off. So it's a beautiful treat because you kind of go in an environment where it's like okay, we're gonna skip the BS, and like get to the point. So the other thing I'm working on right now too, Jerry, is I'm about to do this thing where I'm about to start a fire
Mhm.
in my backyard, and we're going to be inviting men to the fire. So I can't wait to do that. But this is all my effort in redesigning what social life looks like for me.
Yeah.
Because bro, let's face it, bro. Like we could shut this thing down right now, and I could find myself in social life right this minute. It's really about what you want and where you're going.
Right. Yeah. So when it comes to these retreats that you've been going to, just my own curiosity, are they based on John Eldridge's Wild at Heart
Yes.
book? It is. So we have some here too. They're called Carolina Outpost.
Yeah.
I've been going to, I've been there 3 years in a row now. Once a year. They do them twice a year. But yeah, they're definitely good. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that process, the Wild at Heart boot camp for me was beautiful, was beautiful, and, and it was very healing too. And like I said, man, there's for me personally, I just thirst authenticity, bro.
Yeah.
There's something like I thrive in that environment. I want to be authentic with you, but there's a you know I also I want to be in an environment where that is really what's the stage setting. And I would ask you this, Jerry, is like where can you go where the environment or the setting is we lead with authenticity. Like where is that? Like where do you go? Can't even go
Yeah.
to church, some churches, and be authentic because you cast it out.
Right, right. Yeah, I mean right now I can't think of any place like that. That men's retreat is definitely the only place so far that I've found where you can be who you are. And it doesn't mean that you need to stay who you are. Like you need to, like if there's things you need to change, you need to change and so on.
Mm-hmm.
But like you've been mentioning in some of the posts, like as far as the pose or the mask and all of that, like for me, my goal is to become one in any environment, like the same in any environment. Like whether I'm at home, whether I'm at work, whether I'm around anybody, I want to be the same person. I don't want to like wear masks. Like pretend I'm this person in this environment, pretend I'm that person in that other environment, and so on. I really want to be like just me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know what you just said, bro? Like I'm serious. I don't want to pretend I know what the world wants or needs, but I ask myself this question. I mean, how many men live in an environment where they're constantly wearing a variety of masks? From
Yeah.
the environment where I've come from and the friends that I've had, myself included, it was a masquerade ball. You know what I mean? It's like, let me tell you what I do for a living, how much money I make, this, that. Let me show you the pictures. Boom, 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 boom. And then you hear about, a couple years later, like all these crazy stories that just don't add up to those masks that you thought that you were dealing with this person when in reality that wasn't really what you were dealing with. Um, so yeah, so I found those. I thank God for putting that book in my path and for putting those people in my path. Like, so I've attended 2 of those retreats now. Um, it puts it puts things in perspective from a standpoint of, I think, what matters to me, which is, to have alignment with um with my higher power, which I call God. And if my identity is firm with Him, then chances are I'm going to be less likely to pose because my identity is clear. Um, you know, which is why I feel like those retreats are so valuable.
Yeah. Yeah, and then additionally, you get recharged for, like, if you go twice a year or once a year, at least for the next year, or at least
Yeah,
you get that head start, kind of like what you do with your morning routines, but you do that for like the year or the six
yeah,
months.
yeah. That's important. And look, I've done the Wild at Heart Basic, and I've done the Becoming a King. And I was looking at their website, and I think that pretty much that's their programs. And I was thinking, you know, and this is how I know that God is working in my life. Because I'm like, I'm going to go back, but this time I'm going to go back to give
Hmm.
because I've received. You know what I'm saying? And it's like this process. You know what I mean? Which is goes back to those 2 commandments. You love God, take care of your brothers and sisters, love your brothers and sisters. It's like you go to a place like that and you benefit greatly, like I have. So it's like now I'm like, okay, well, how can I help, guys? You know what I mean? Like, how can I be of service? Um, and when things like that happen, I just think that life has a magical way of getting itself in order, bro. You know, um, yeah. So
Yeah. Yep. Um, so when I met you, you were either going through or like in the middle, or you had just finished the hard 75, the 75 hard, whatever the
yeah,
name of the program is. Um, when it comes to like physical health, exercise, eating right, and so on, what is your life like when it comes to that?
yeah. So 75 hard changed my life. Okay. It was very, very difficult to do. I failed it probably 4 times before I actually completed it. Um, you know, today, so I've been able to. So I got down. So I was 250. I got down to 197. I've been able to stay under 200, bro. Believe it or not, which I'm so happy about. But a big part of it, bro, a big part of what's helping me right now, even though recently, by recently I mean like this week, uh, what's been helping me is fasting, bro. So I've been fasting. So I
Mm-hmm.
fast. I do that 18-6, and I'm sorry, no, I eat for 8 hours and fast for 18. Is that right?
24. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. So I've been doing that. At least I fast for 16. Bro, there's all sorts of health benefits associated with fasting for you, your audience, bro. If you haven't done the research, you really got to go look that up, man. And just there's just so much data to prove.
And
Um,
this particular one you're referring to is intermittent fasting, if I can pronounce the
yeah,
words.
yeah, you got it, you got it.
um, yeah.
Yep. But yeah, I had just finished that. I'm gonna start again in January, January 1st. I'm start 75 hard. We'll see how it goes. Um, is I like to I like I want to push to have I want to push my body to be the best that it can be. Um, but this time around, I'm going to be trying to be real self conscious where I'm not going to like overdo it.
Hmm.
Um, but again, we got a little group of guys that we work out with, and they want to start it, and I'm part of the workout group, so So I want to support it, say, okay, let's do it. And 75 hard, I mean, you don't have to be like, it's not Mr. Olympia, bro. Like you can do a 45-minute walk. You do
Yeah.
a 45-minute walk, that counts as a workout, and the hardest part is the eating, man.
Hmm. The first time you try or you started it, what was the reason behind that? How did you decide to start it or give it a shot?
The first time I started it,
Yeah.
um, one of my mentors posted a picture that he was doing it, and you know what I found the most fascinating about that situation was like what he did is he took a picture of him, of his current physical health. It was just him in his underwear, and I was like, damn, I like that's crazy to me, like how somebody would put a picture up like that.
Hmm.
And then this guy was in pretty good shape, so it's like then you had all these other guys who were like putting it all out there, bro, and I was like, wow. And then it was like the reading, and I was already kind of doing the whole power hour thing, so I was like, it's like how hard can this be?
Hmm.
Um, so and I was already going down that path, but I was like, well, let me try this out, see what happens. But man, doing it for 75 days straight, it's a different ball game. Because if you miss one day, you got to start again at day one.
Hmm.
So you could be at day 40, and if you miss drinking a gallon of water, you're back to day one. So it tests your integrity, bro, your discipline. Because
Yeah.
like you can go out there and start checking off the box and say you did it, but you know you didn't do it.
Right. And
What's the
nobody's gonna say anything. It's all for you. So
Yeah.
like
So
if
you
you
you lie to yourself. It's like that's the
yeah.
yeah. It's over.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, when it comes to financial education and so on, um, what are like the most important things that you've learned about money and wealth management? And you're in that business.
80% psychological.
What, elaborate on that. Like, what do you mean?
Um, so there's like so the health industry, it's $1 billion industry.
Hmm.
But it boils down to what you put in your mouth and how many calories you burn. Everything else is a deviation from it.
Hmm.
Some sort of association with it. There's like principles of financial literacy, right? Like don't spend more than you make. Um, Save as much money as you can. Um, Put money away for the future. Like it's a conversation. Obviously, I don't want to diminish what I do or the industry, but there's like principles, right, or of saving and investing,
Hmm.
right? But just like whether it be the 75 hard or the health industry, it's like it's the psychology that gets in the way of doing it.
Hmm.
Okay, because I said, look, all you gotta do is start saving, right? But yet most people don't want to save. So that's not a money issue. Not in America, man. That's a psychology issue, right? Or vice versa. This is a very broad topic, bro. So this is my alley, right? So it's like, but at the same time, too, man, like you got to live today, too. I've almost gotten fired by clients when I tell them to go take a vacation. They're like, Joe, what are you talking about? You're the first financial advisor telling me to spend money. I'm like, this has got to be the stupidest thing ever. You mean to tell me you're just going to save money for the rest of your life? Like, you're 70 years old. Like, how much time you got left? You know what I'm saying? It's like at some point you got to spend some of this money, because like we got a plan, but people are like, I can't spend money. Do you see what I'm saying, Jerry? It's like that's what I mean by psychology. It's like the same psychology that prevents people from saving and investing initially, it's the same psychology that sometimes prevents people from spending their money and
Hmm.
enjoying it later.
So it's
It's
almost
the
like extremes. People go into one or the other extreme. It's like either they just spend it all or they just save it all, and there's like no balance.
right, because again, we go back to some of the things you asked earlier about the definition of success. You got to be real clear on, you know, what it is that you want. And if you have a relationship with a higher power, what does God want from you? What does God want from you? And what do you want out of the life that you're living in? Okay. And then the financial component, it's just a piece of that, but it's
Hmm.
not all of it. You know what I mean? Like, man, I got so many stories to tell you, man. I know people, man, that are extremely wealthy, but they won't take a vacation with their family.
So then they
And they
just
think in their mind, this is good. And I'm like, wow, this is fascinating. You took something that was good, like saving and investing, and you did it well, and now you took it and went overboard, and now it's become a detriment.
hmm
Kind of like when I tore my Achilles over doing the fitness game. It's like it's like you can take you can take the whole money conversation and distort it extremely quickly. I always say a very basic component. There's a risk tolerance conversation we have with clients whenever they come on board and really understand their psychology about money. And since then, I've really expanded on the questions that we ask clients just to really get a really good understanding of what they want, not just in their mind, but in their heart, and helping them understand what they want. But it's like fundamentally, at the end of the day, what drives those money those money conversations, it's fear and greed. Everything is derived from that.
hmm
So my job, what I've discovered over the years is helping people understand which fears are real and which fears are imagined, or helping people understand greed in the context of risk.
hmm
Okay, so there is investing, right, and then there's gambling,
right.
right. So that's greed, right. So it's like I never thought, bro, that I was gonna come on this, do this as a job, and as a trade, and I would spend 80% of the time talking about psychological um, uh, money conversations. But here's the other thing too, Jerry, is this: not everybody's willing to have these conversations
Yeah.
because guess what? I mean, the industry tells you got to do a risk tolerance questionnaire. What do you do if the market does this? It does that. People check a few boxes and they say, okay, you're moderate, conservative, or aggressive. Bro, it's a lot more complicated than that, right? Somebody would tell me, Joe, I'm aggressive. I want to take big risk and make a lot of money. The market drops 10%, the person can't sleep for 10 days. So how does that
Yeah.
happen? How does that happen? Well, you have to really care, bro, for the people that you're called to serve and really understand them. Um, so I was telling my daughter, we were at Barnes and Noble today. She wanted to get this book, but it's like for a 15-year-old, bro. So it's like, look, you're 11. You know what I mean?
hmm
So I was like, you want to start driving? I was like, this is like if you want to start driving, and I gave you the keys to an airplane, and just say, here you go, you're ready to drive because you've asked me to drive. I love you. Here's the keys to the airplane. Take it. Would you be ready to go flying it? All you gotta do is push the handle up, and just go. She's like, I would freak out. Well, I'm like, kind of same thing, It's like you're trying to get a book that's just not in alignment with where you're at in your life. So, so what I found is as it relates to financial education, it's heavy on the psychology side, man.
Hmm.
Beyond anything that I could have ever imagined.
Okay. What are some investment classes that average people may not even be aware of?
Good question. So I would say a real big one right now. I'll speak on one. Um, is structured investments. Structured investments are private investments. So um, it's one of those, man. It's kind of like a thorn on my side. So, so when you walk into so I have, like, in my world, right? I have access to some investments, and I talked to you about this. I think when we met last time,
Hmm.
briefly, about these FDIC insured CDs that you can invest, make money in the market, but they're FDIC insured. You're like, what? This
Yeah.
guy's a clown. He said you can invest in the S&P but be protected by the FDIC. That doesn't make any sense, bro. There's hundreds of these products, but the thing is in the big banks, for some odd reason, something that goes beyond my pay grade. Okay, and and because I don't know the answer to this, there is the reason why perhaps I feel so driven to do something about the education. Um, if you walk into a bank, right? Let's say you got $100,000, dude. Like, and you're very conservative, right? So maybe one of these CDs that you can invest in the market, maybe one of those CDs makes a lot of sense for you, or at least should be part of the conversation, right?
Hmm.
After you've done your financial plan and you've gone through all that. But here's the sad part: is that in the majority of banks, they won't even talk to you about those products, because a lot of those products, they only give access to those products to people that are $25 million and above. So structured products, uh, it's definitely a space that I think it's very unique, but you have to be very careful, because you know it's like how can I say this? Um, I don't know. If I was making my own cigarettes, bro, like I have a factory in my house, and I'm like, here you go, bro. Like, I'm making my own cigarettes. You probably like be careful, right? Because you have no idea what's in there, right? So it's like so in the structured products world, there's a lot of players, and you have to kind of really be careful, because a lot of those players are just not that credible or strong to
Is it
back.
is it not regulated? Is that what it is, or is it like loosely regulated or something like that, or what's the?
No, it's regulated. It's regulated, and perhaps because of the regulation, um, that they. So this is my view on this, right? So the wealthier the person, the less likely regulation is going to be an issue.
Hmm.
If you're worth $100 million and I put $100,000 in a structured product, and that structured product goes belly up, you're not going to be a big problem, you know. So regulation is less of an issue. Um, if you make that product available to everybody that has $100,000 and above, now all of a sudden you might get certain people where that $100,000 is perhaps that 100,000 is 50% of their entire investable assets. So now that person looks at that 100,000 like it's 50 million. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that person is more likely to be a problem from a compliance standpoint to the folks that are overseeing that space, and I'm giving the Wall Street folks a huge olive branch here, bro, because I don't know if this is the reason why, but that's my educated guess as to why those investments are not accessible to the
Hmm.
mass public.
It makes sense. That makes sense. Yeah. What are some other asset classes that people are typically not aware of? Or maybe even give a list of like the regular ones that, I mean, semi-educated person in financials or finances would know.
Yeah, so you got your core asset classes. You got your stocks, bonds, cash. Those are the key three. From those three asset classes, everything else is derived of. Okay, so in stocks, of course, you're going to have domestic stocks. You're going to have which break down into small, medium, and large companies. Of course, you're going to have your international stocks, emerging market stocks. Um, let's see, you got gold, which is commodities. Commodities can be a whole different world too, and then you got bonds, which you have. And again, I'm doing a super summary here:
Yeah,
short
yeah.
term, intermediate term, long term, tax free, taxable type of bonds. Um, you know, but when you say most people wouldn't know, wouldn't have access to,
Or how about
most of the
other like non-traditional, like I guess like would crypto be considered like an asset in some ways?
Yeah, crypto would be. I would consider crypto an asset class. I mean, a lot of people in my industry don't.
Hmm.
I look at it as an asset class. I almost treat it like digital gold. Um, Probably without, I don't give it the full stamp of legitimacy as perhaps gold, because just gold has been around a much longer period of time. But yeah, I mean, definitely crypto is definitely an asset class. Um,
And how about like I've heard of things like now there's, and I don't know if maybe it's not mainstream or maybe it's not part of the traditional investing, but like where there are either companies or however it works, where you basically invest a fraction into a piece of art
mhm.
and you own that piece of art just like fractionally.
Yeah,
Or maybe there's like even other things that people could potentially invest in.
yep. So that's a perfect example of, see, when you look at digital assets or like crypto. Behind crypto, you have the blockchain. Okay,
Hmm.
and the blockchain is what allows things like that to take place, where you're able to take an asset and essentially break that asset up into digital pieces. And the blockchain is very transparent, very available for anybody to test it and view it real time. Um, and what it does is it allows for the digitization of a physical asset like art. They've also done it with certain type of cards. Even certain NFL players, bro, have taken their career and their own avatar as a person and actually auctioned it off, which is bizarre, bro. So, um, you know, there's definitely a lot of future in that. One of the top things I want to study next year, bro, that I'm going to be probably going to be doing one of these programs. Uh, One of these Ivy League schools where like learn a little bit more in depth about AI. I want to dive a little bit deeper into that. Um, the reason uh, I would say when it comes to alternative assets, bro, it really is the Wild West, bro.
Hmm.
Once you get beyond, like, digital is wild, like crypto is Wild West, right? Like Bitcoin is Wild West, right? If not, just look at what happened with your boy Sam, right? I mean, you see that, and actually, I mean, I got to be careful with this, but it's like if you look at what he did, it's like the perfect example of what happens when there is no oversight to legitimize an industry that's already taking place. Kind of
Hmm.
like with alcohol and Al Capone, right? So it's like this guy, his business, bro. Like, he didn't really need to cheat. I don't know if you knew that or not. I mean,
Hmm.
his business was profitable and he was doing very well. So this is a situation where he took something that was good and through doing some shady stuff created crimes, and he put himself in the position that he's in. But the point is, the reason why I'm saying this, because I'm reluctant to talk about the dark side of investing, because I'm on the good side, guys. I'm I'm on the legitimate side, and I don't want anybody in your audience to hear anything that I'm saying and go out there and investigate on something. Because, by the way, there's all sorts of like just shiny objects everywhere, and like and by the because look, the furthest out I'm willing to go is perhaps Bitcoin and certain digitized products, or what you just described. That kind of makes some sense. Um, but man, the further out you go, the bigger the probability for you to be taken, man. You know,
Yeah.
and that's kind of like concerning. Or probably want to do a special show myself on specific topics about specific things, and then do a deep dive on pros and cons, and then how to evaluate the different type of things. And by the way, last year I actually became I became certified in the blockchain and digital assets
Hmm.
by the Association of Financial Professionals, which puts me in a position where I can actually talk about these things, which I'm hoping next year I might be able to start maximizing some of that knowledge and start putting it out there.
Okay. What's your view on day trading?
Um, Simple. Uh, I've asked people three questions. Okay. Um, do you have the time, the expertise, and the knowledge? If you do it. If you don't have one of those, you're going to need some help.
What?
Time, expertise, and knowledge. And you got to be honest with yourself. Like either you got it or you don't.
Yeah. What do you think about like young people, like seeing the financial industry, like, okay, that's where the money is. I want to jump into it. And they're kind of jumping into either day trading or some other odd thing without, I mean, they hear some guru saying you can make a lot of money by doing this or that and just following somebody like that. What would be like some caution or whatever else you would say to that person?
Yeah. So I'll give you a big one. Um, if a guy says that he figured out a system or a way or a product to make a ton of money, why is he telling you about it? Like that's a really good question.
Yeah.
I mean, because you're the product. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, you know, in my world, right? So I'm a fiduciary, right? In my world, I'm agnostic as it relates to which products I'm going to use. So, and also, I have a legal obligation to do what's in the right of the best interest of the client. Okay, so like most people, you're not operating in that environment. So if somebody says, look, I have this product, or I have this angle, or I have this solution, and it's made me all this wealth, right? And look at the stuff that I'm buying or whatever, right? Then my question then becomes is like, if like Jared, let's be honest, right? So it's like if I found like I don't know, man, this is probably not a good example, but like I don't know, let's say we were like living 100 years ago, right? And you live on that tribe over here, and I live on this tribe over here, right? And then all of a sudden in my river, there's like, I find gold, man. There's just gold pouring down this thing, right? Maybe gold now has value and significance. Am I going to go tell the whole neighborhood to come down the river and take the gold? Like that's the same concept. It's like a lot of these guys, they're just not for real. They're not legitimate, and they don't have that a lot of them don't have the expertise or the track record themselves. A lot of them are regurgitating something that they bought from somebody else, um, and definitely a lot of them don't have their best interest in mind. Um, you know, again, if you have the time, the expertise, and the willingness, when you talk about day trading, you talk about short term outcomes and returns. Like to be able to derive a short-term outcome, right? There's certain type of time that you need to devote to that strategy. You need certain type of expertise, and you need to be willing to do it,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I'm not saying don't do it. Are there people making money? Sure. In my view, right, from what it appears like to me, is that the majority of people, there's research that I've seen where it just shows that the retail investor gets slaughtered over and over again by reacting to different types of market gyrations. Like that's what the research says, right? Um, and in day trading, man, the market gyrations can be brutal. You can make a lot of money, but it's like we were talking about, right? So it goes back to that question that we were talking about. Which of my current views would change if my incentives were different? How does that apply to day trading, right? So
Yeah.
you make money for 5 days in a row, and all of a sudden the incentives become really nice, and you're like, or maybe you make money for 5 years in a row or 10 years in a row, and then the incentives become crazy, and you're like, yeah, I want to do this now, like, and you take that gamble, man. Good luck, because just it's very difficult to succeed in day trading, man. In my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah. Joe, it's been great having you. Before we end this, why don't you tell the audience a little bit about more of what you do? And I mean, you never know. Potentially, you may get a customer out of this or not, or whatever.
Yeah, yeah. Well, right. So for the last 15 years or so, I've been in the financial services industry. Today, I run my own boutique style wealth management firm. I have a small number of clients by choice. When I used to work at the big Wall Street banks, I had 1,000 clients. Today, I help 40 families. I am a fiduciary, which means I have a legal obligation to do what's in the best interest of the people that I'm called to serve. Uh, I deal with some of the major Wall Street, major Wall Street firms. We got Raymond James, Charles Schwab, TD Ameritrade. That's where we keep a separation of clients' money and the business. That's super important, by the way. That's one sure way to make sure that you don't get burned. Make sure that your assets are separate from the firm that you're dealing with, right? There's a custody. So, anyways, we definitely have that. We have multiple custodians, um, and we run it like a family office. So, when people need help with taxes, taxation, estate planning, insurance, wealth management, we do it all. I'm well versed in all those things, but I'm not an expert in all of them. So we bring in experts to help us in different things. Um, you know, you can reach me at Soto at kingsview.com, KIJSOTO at Kingsview, KINGSVIEW.com, or you can just give my office a call at 678-646-6788. Yep, that's the best way to get a hold of me, and keep a lookout for me for next year, because man, we're gonna start this online school, man. We're really gonna open it up. So I'm excited. I'm excited about next year, because we're gonna be talking. I'm gonna be doing a lot more deeper dive into some of those investment conversations that you were talking about, Jerry. So, but I don't want to neglect the spirit of the importance of having those other areas of life in tune. So I'm excited about what that looks like next year. Definitely, I think the world right now, our people need it. The young people need it, and I'm excited to be talking about that. So we'll see how it goes.
And like on Facebook, if somebody wants to follow you, they can search for the Joe Soto project, right?
Yeah, the Joe Soto project. Yep. Or you can look at the Joe Soto project, which is basically my online education portal, which we're gonna be doing some updates to that. And then you can look at Joseph Valentino Soto, Fiduciary Wealth Management, Wealth Manager. I'm also on Facebook and or LinkedIn. And yep, those are all good ways to reach out.
All right, Joe. It's been definitely great talking to you, learning a lot from you.
Yeah.
Great having you. I'm sure if you're available sometime in the future, we'll chat some more about maybe more specific topics. But definitely been great talking to you.
Yeah. Hey, man, when I'm on the other side, I'm going to be reaching back out to you, bro.
Oh, yeah, sure. Sounds good.
I'll be asking the questions and I'll be listening.
Yeah, there you go. I'll have to prepare for it.
All right. Awesome, brother.
All right.
Well, good luck with your channel, man. I'll be following you, man. And congratulations again, it started. And thank you for inviting me, bro. I enjoyed the conversation.
All right. Thank you, Joe. All right.